All right, so today I wanted to take a look at maybe a beginner's guide to the HX Stomp. Somebody had asked me a few advice things about their new HX Stomp they had just gotten, or maybe even some beginners are looking at this or considering buying one. So I wanted to run over a few different things. One of them being why I chose to go with Line 6 and the Helix brand. A few years ago, I've used tube amps, for as long as I've been playing guitar live, and someone else in one of my bands had gotten a Fractal Axe FX 2. So it was pretty cool, and I knew things about the Kemper and everything. So I was really kind of going back and forth between, which of those routes I would wind up doing, going with amp modeling or amp profiling with the Kempers, or with all the options that Fractal had at their disposal. This was before Quad Cortex was really in the mix there. And in the research that I was doing on YouTube and everything, I was really kind of focusing on those, but I kept seeing the Line 6 HX Stomp, and it seemed pretty appealing there. And after I got my plethora, then I was seeing some of the things that you could do with it to use the HX to control the plethora. So that was kind of what pushed me over the edge. Obviously, this one is quite a bit cheaper than going Kemper or Fractal, but the full Helix board, which is basically twice the processing power as this, is right up there around those price ranges. So it's not that this is any less quality. In fact, it would be nice if those other brands had something in this price range. And Helix has been doing a lot of updates. They even just did one last week. We're now on 3.7 updates. So yeah, it's really cool that they just keep providing this stuff instead of making it all like plugins that you have to pay for. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. As far as the tips to use this for and everything, it's so flexible that you could really use it for anything. So if you're happy with your tube amp or whatever you've been using, that is fine. You don't have to use any of that stuff. You could literally just use the compressors and dynamics and EQs and stomp boxes, distortion stuff in here, or you could use the modulation, delay, any of that stuff in the post effects, and you're going to be in good shape with either of these. But it's nice that it has more options. I know the HX1 is coming out, but I don't think that one actually has any of the amp modeling to it. I think it's just going to be kind of similar to the HX effects, which is bigger than this and has more buttons to it, but lacks the amp and the cabs and all that stuff there. So as far as the tips for it, one big thing that I could say is to save often. If you make any kind of changes, and while you're getting used to the knobs and what all they do, it's going to be very easy to put 30 minutes of work into a patch, not save it, and then you accidentally scroll off the patch and now it's gone. So that would be one big thing that I could say. All you have to do to save is hit these two buttons right here. Name the patch whatever it is, which is pretty easy using that character thing. If you hit the button, it'll send it to lowercase, or you can tap it to scroll through really fast because there's a lot of character options. I'm just going to cancel that for right now. Another big thing that I could recommend, like just right out of the box, is you don't even have to worry about getting into building presets, because there's a ton of them already in here. In fact, there's so many on here, and then I've made so many more that I really need to go back through and delete some of these. But just to show you like what we have, probably need to watch the volume on some of these too. So you start with these that are in the FX category, and all those would be is just different combinations of effects. I think most of them don't have any kind of amp in there, so it's something that you would use with your existing amplifier or whatever you're using. So there's some pretty cool stuff. Direct, DIR, and all this stuff, that would have cab sims. It's still got effects to it too, but you're going to have your cab sims and amplifiers and reverbs after all that stuff in a lot of these. I'm turning this top knob to cycle through those. So those are the direct ones. And since I'm just plugging right into here from my guitar and then out, I don't have any 4-cable method stuff, but that's this category now, is the 4CM. So that's going to be like using the send and return type stuff. Then you have some bass settings. Pretty cool stuff. A lot of bass options. So this isn't just for guitar. And then you have acoustic options as well. And then a few key effects. So that's all stuff that is available just right from the get-go with all this stuff. And it's really cool, and I definitely recommend spending some time going through there and maybe even deleting some that you don't think are going to be that usable. So yeah, definitely check that out. And remember to save often if you do something that you like. So the next question that you probably should pose to yourself is how you want to use this. Do you want to use it for the amp modeling stuff and being able to go ampless, which you totally could do, or you want to run, effects into your amp or use the effects post amp through your effects loop? So that's a big thing to consider. And you can also, one of the ways that I use this is with my real amp, but I use a send and return on this to send my signal to the amp and then back. So I've still got like my tube amp sound, but it is coming out, or it's coming back almost like it's one of the blocks in the HX Stomp. And I can then from that point blend my real amp with one of the digital amps on here. And then I could route it back out to where I'm using one of the sends to just return to my amp without using any of the speaker emulation, because the speaker emulation does not sound ideal returning into an amp and then getting run through a speaker. So that's some stuff to consider there. I'd also recommend maybe like taking a look at the command center and also the global settings. So to get to that, let's see, you hit the 3-block menu right there by hitting these two at the same time. That's going to bring up some menu options. When you see this, where like this bar is highlighted and then dark, that means that you have another page that you can scroll over to. So the first page we have bypass assign, which would be if you had stomps or wanted to swap amps or anything, you could assign some of those there. And then command center, that's a really important thing. So I don't know if you use MIDI or not with your setups yet, but a lot of effects nowadays, whether it's Strymon or any of the big pedal names, they're starting to have MIDI functions with them, and it's really been a cool thing to dive into these. So with each setting, or even with each snapshot, which would be, you have like 3 different snapshots in each of preset, where it's not like it switches things around, but you can set the parameters of different things. So you could have an amp kind of on a clean channel, and then when you hit the next button, the next snapshot, it switches you to a different, maybe like lower volume, but more gain, more reverb for a solo, a gate even, to help control the tone a little bit. So a lot of cool stuff you can do with there. Commands, MIDI CC, PC, send hotkeys like a button press, looper controls. Let's see. So you have 6 MIDI things that you can send, 3 different foot switches, these 1, 2, 3, then you can add on 4 and 5, and 2 functions for your expression pedal right there too. Now you only have 1 port on the back of here for expression 1 and 2 or foot switch 4 and 5. And what I do is I actually run my expression pedal into that jack and then use MIDI to actually have a secondary foot switch 4 and 5 that I can use for that. So that's something I'll definitely cover too, because I think a lot of these presets are set to, or like when you get it and turn it on, this is going to be like red flashing for your tap tempo. But you can actually change that from the global settings. So if I go back here, and I can pull this up with this menu up without leaving this. Here would be global EQ. I don't really mess with that. That's because it's going to change the EQ on like every setting. So let's get out of that and look at the global settings for a minute here. So again, I hit the 2 buttons, page over, global settings. And in here you've got a lot of options like Let's see, setting your input. Most of you are going to want to have instrument instead of line. Line would be if you were running like a keyboard or something into this, something that's not instrument impedance level. You got a lot of cool options in what you're monitoring, whether it's the main or the headphones and things like that. Just be careful what you save in some of these. And it's very easy to back out of a menu to like easily there, so just work on getting it back. Just scroll through these, just turn this top knob. Some of your preferences here. This is where you would kind of mess with some of the expression foot controls. If it's not responding the way it should, you can exchange some of this stuff, invert the polarity of it there. Really depends on the expression pedal and some of the ways you're using it. The preset numbers, yours might come like this as 01A, 12, like 1A, 2A, 3A, and then I think it's 2A. However, I didn't like it, so I switched it to the 0 through 25 preset numbers. Let's see, and then a few things there. Let's see, foot switches. So this is probably by default set to the tap tuner, and this is what I was talking about, that red flashing light there to control that. I didn't like that on there. I like having the option for it. But that's Stomp 3, and I set the tap tuner to my foot switch 4 whenever it's plugged up, and toggle expression, which helps me switch between expression 1 and 2, which would be like volume and wah. I set to foot switch 5. All right, and a few of the expression parameters. The MIDI stuff, I should probably spend a whole video just diving into that. And then the display right here, how it says dim, bright, that would be, and I'm not on an effect that I've built yet or anything, but that would be like the light is completely off like this, and then it's on whenever it's turned on, or it's kind of dim so you can kind of see the color. And that's the way that I prefer it. Let's see. So those are the main presets right there. Let's see. Another thing that I could recommend for you to do is definitely to update the Stomp. I'm not sure nowadays when you get it if it comes brand new with the latest firmware, but you know, it's got great stuff in it from launch, but it's really cool what they've added into it. I think that if you're above, what is it, 2.8 firmware, then you don't have to go numerically in order. Like you don't have to do 3, then 3 point whatever, then 3.5, then 3.7. I think you really just have to do that up to 2.8. But it's really not that hard. The hardest thing about it really is finding where the downloads actually are on the Line 6 website, creating an account, and then you have to have HXEdit on your computer to be able to do that. And you have to update HXEdit every time it updates, or you get a new one as well before you do the Stomp. Sounds complicated. It's really not. They have a lot of easy prompts and things to tell you how to walk through that, so don't be too afraid of that. Rather than creating a preset on this, like I was thinking of, let's do this. I'm just going to look over here at one of my other presets. Now, I don't have it set up to where I'm actually running with the simplifier right now, but I kind of wanted to show some of the options here. So like right now, it's wanting to send the signal to the simplifier because it's the effects loop left right there. But if I hit that, okay, that was too much. Sorry if I made anybody jump with that. Now, it's not the perfect sound right now or anything. I don't have, part of it's because I don't have cab sim going with it. That's just what the amp sounds like. So let's switch that back. But you notice that if I hold down the button like this, do I have to be... Okay, yeah, you have to be in the home menu. And that was a big thing. That's the question that originally started this off. Someone was asking how you get to Stomp mode. And I said, well, for one, you can't be in this view right here where your, I guess you could call it your signal line is at the top there, and then you have the controls underneath. That I'm not sure what the view on this is called, but it's not the home view. So if you're from here, then you can't really swap to the stomp or the from the stomp to the preset scroll or the snapshots as well, but you could maybe with a foot trigger. So what you got to do is hit that home button right there, and that takes you back here. And then you're going to want to page left or right. So I'm all the way on the left right now. That's the stomp mode. Then that's preset up and down. And I still have stomp 3 that I could assign to really anything that I wanted. Then that would be like a block of 3 effects. So 75, 76, 77. It would also look like, say, 10A, 10B, 10C, something like that too. And then finally is the snapshot mode, which is different than the stomp. This is where you could literally set differences, like big differences between each of the presets that you have in here and swap between them. So you could have like a clean, a rhythm, and a lead without really changing any of the effects, just changing the parameters of the effects. So that's like a huge thing that I would recommend like checking out. A couple other things I would definitely recommend people checking out the A and B path options here. So like I have this hall reverb down lower than the rest of it right there. So that means that it's on a different signal path. So everything that I've got is going up to this point, hitting that delay. And then you've got just the delay going on its own path, but then you have the delay dipping down and joining up with the reverb and coming back. So you can't have like 2 AB paths on the HX Stomp. I think you can on the Helix though. But what you got to consider is what's around it there. So the split Y is going to be important where it falls. If I drop it on the other side, then I'm going to have delay just on the A path and reverb just on the B path. And then you can even change by hitting action. You can move where that Y split is, or go sit on the other mixer. And I guess I don't have many options with that one since it's the very last thing of the chain. It won't let me move it before the input, obviously. But that's another huge thing that I think is really cool with the Helix and being able to run things like that. And then another thing, to consider with this that I would just point out for beginners there. Let me go to, this open preset. I think this is my only remaining open preset at all. So got to go to the home, or you can't be in the home mode if you want to add things. So I'm going to hit the bottom switch. You can store favorites if you like. I don't have as many in there as I should, but then you get your distortions, dynamics, EQs, modulation, which would be your choruses, tremolos, flangers, vibratos, delays, reverbs, pitch and synth stuff. That's all cool, but pretty DSP heavy, meaning that you can't have like a whole bunch of those because they're going to take up a lot of power. Wahs, so the wah you're probably going to want to control with an expression pedal plugged into there, but there's a lot of options for that. Amp and cab, that's going to be like a combination of the two that is cool because it saves you some space and a block because you're using one instead of two, but it doesn't allow you to put effects in between the amp and the cab. But not everybody needs stuff like that. Let's see. You got amps, the preamps. The preamps are just going to have a few less parameters than the amps, so I'm going to save you a little space. Cabs and IRs, volume pan, send and return. The send and returns, that's the switches here on the side, and that's where you could use one path to send to your amp and return, and even use the other half to return to some other effects units and then return in there as well. That was a cat sneeze. Let's see. And you even have looper down here at the bottom. All right. And the difference between cabs and IRs is a little bit of difference between them there. Cabs are going to be specifically emulating different speakers, greenbacks, blues, things like that. And also different speaker combinations, 1, 12, 2, 12, 4, 12s, 8, 10 by 10-inch speakers. So a lot of different options there. The IRs are going to be more of like a digital capture of, say, like a room, which theoretically isn't that different from what the speaker emulation is doing, because it's trying to put your sound, how it would sound in a room, instead of just like a direct signal coming in there. So I could go on and on with this and just kind of breaking down every little thing. But I hope that this has at least been a good introduction into what to do with this whenever you first get started. If anybody has any other specific things they'd like for me to cover, I've got a ton of different plans to show this off and everything. But if anybody would like to see something more specific, please let me know. I'll go ahead and wrap it for right now, though. But thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you soon.